This is the Palisados Foundation. Palisados was created by a group of expat Jamaican IT professionals to provide equitable access to life opportunities for STEM students. Most specifically, we do this by promoting software engineering education internships for university students on the island. Each student works on one of our open source projects under the mentorship of an IT professional. Stipends are paid upon achieving predefined goals. This program is called the Calico Challenge. The IT sector is a dynamic, growing, and critical international industry that can provide significant financial growth and opportunity for our community. Our internship programs allow local IT professionals to globally compete. We started in 2016. Almost 40 students have completed the program. We have had a variety of current and past Jamaican sponsors, including the NCB Foundation, the JPS Foundation, the Grace Kennedy Foundation, the JMMB Group, Rail Decoy, Sutherland, Backyard Restaurant, Simtai Consulting, Vertis Technologies, the Jamaica Computer Society, and more. In this video, we'll be featuring the work done by students on the Talawa project. This application is meant to be a simple project and event management tool. It is suitable not only for community organizations such as churches and clubs, but also small businesses. Events can be created in the calendar with persons being assigned responsibilities and deadlines. There are news feed and chat features for additional community engagement. Say, for example, a religious institution is planning a wedding. The event can be created, the faithful alerted, persons responsible for all aspects of planning assigned, and registrations accepted. Talawa helps improve the management and engagement of the community. Let's take a look at what the students did in 2020.
My name is Ranil Wallace, and today I will be presenting from the backend team for the Talawa project for this year's Calico Challenge. So a brief overview of who I am. So my name is Ranil Wallace. I am a third-year student at the University of Technology. I am completing my bachelor's in computing, where I major in computer science, and I'm also a tech enthusiast. So the agenda for my presentation, I will be going over the project overview, the tools used, development overview, lessons learned, resources, improvements, and of course my conclusion. So what is Talawa? Talawa is a modular open source project to manage group activities of both nonprofit organizations and businesses. Now, while developing for Talawa, we have built out a plethora of features. Some of them include membership management, groups management, and event management. The tools that we utilized for the backend include Node.js, which if you aren't familiar with Node.js, it is a JavaScript runtime environment. So essentially allows you to run JavaScript code anywhere other than the browser. We also utilized GraphQL, which is a query and manipulation language, something similar to SQL for those coming from a relational database background, and utilized by the front-end team Flutter, which is a framework used to create cross-platform projects. So we're going to be going over my development overview. So what I have been doing for the past 3 months. So for the first month, I added the ability to create events on the backend, which is what the app developers utilized in order to fully implement the feature on their side. So we implemented the ability to create events as well as the ability to create tasks under events. So under events, you are able to add certain tasks that should be completed by persons who are a part of an event. So those two were implemented on that month. We had really only one challenge that month with that feature, and it was the format for all the dates. So there are two dates that are being stored, start date and end date. And the database that we use, MongoDB, which I probably should have mentioned before, formats the dates in a certain format that isn't really conventional or traditional. So there was an issue with converting the dates from that time, even after adding it to the database, but we resolved that issue. For the second month, we implemented another full feature, which was the newsfeed. Now, the newsfeed is a section of the app under an organization where you were able to create posts. It could be an image post, a video post, as well as text posts, or a combination. You're able to interact with them, so you are able to like, comment on a post. You can also view posts as well. So that was a full feature that we implemented on the back end that month. We also created provisions for the group chat feature, as they have mentioned before, was not implemented. However, there were provisions made for that feature to be implemented. Is the date stamp? It's time. The date stamp. I am not sure. I'm not certain if it's if it's Unix time. I'm reading the question that's in the group chat, by the way. I'm not certain, but more than likely not. For the second month, the challenges that we faced were, well, it was only really one, and it was the research for image upload for newsfeed. It was very extensive. It was something that my teammate Laurel, after this presentation, he had begun implementing, and while he was implementing the base for that, I was doing my research as to how it would work, how it could be implemented, and how we can utilize it for the newsfeed. For the third month, which is last month in August, we began the implementation for group chats, as well as we fixed a couple issues with the events feature from July. Specifically, the issues that we faced were really just formatting for the different dates and times that we store. We had originally agreed on one certain formatting, but that requirement had changed in terms of what the front-end team would have preferred. So we were just making provisions for that. Challenges: the implementation for group chats wasn't entirely complete. So provisions are there, as I've mentioned before, for group chats. However, the full implementation was not done. Lessons learned. There are a few lessons that I have learned during the 3 months of development. The first lesson was time management is key. Now, I guess you are aware we're all students, and we have, some of us are doing summer classes as well as this challenge. And time management was something that we really had to learn, especially the fact that we created our milestones, we've submitted our milestones, and we have dedicated, or we've notified that we were going to work on this for this month, this for the next month, and this for the other month. So of course, time management was something that had to be taken into consideration in order to fully implement everything that we needed for the specific months that we have specified for our milestones. The other lesson that we have learned was proper communication is a must. So especially given that we are working on two completely different sides of this one project, more specifically front end and back end, there has to be a common ground of communication for both teams. Now, a lot of things can be misunderstood, especially when, for example, the backend team isn't familiar with something in the front end and vice versa. So communication is definitely a must, especially constant communication and trying to be as clear as possible as to something that you need or an issue that you are having. Right. So as I was saying, understanding your solution, fleshing it out, thinking about it thoroughly before actually implementing it helps a lot, especially when you have a lot of stuff that you have to deal with as well, not just this one feature, but some things that probably might be affected by this feature. So thinking about it, probably taking a piece of paper and mapping it out however you prefer is also really good before implementing it. Yes, so let me continue now. Right, resources. There are a few resources that I utilized during the past 3 months. More specifically, Stack Overflow. It's a very common resource used by a lot of developers. It really helps, especially when you are facing an issue that is probably really common among the development community. I also utilized the Apollo docs. So Apollo is the package that we use for GraphQL for this project. So reading the documentation for while I was looking out for certain things really helped a lot, as well as the GitHub docs for stuff related to version control. Improvements and recommendations. So I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with the term staging. One of the improvements or recommendations that I would make is to add a staging server to the project. A staging server is like a development server. So after you have done all your tests, you would deploy your project to the staging server first, which is where you would conduct a wider scale testing. After that, that is when you would now push your code or your project to production, which is used by everyone. So I think something that could be added is a staging server, especially for things like demos. That would help. The other thing is to implement automatic deployment for both staging and production servers. So after we've done all our tests and we have merged all our code, and once we upload the different versions of code, then the version control will automatically deploy your code to the different servers, the respective servers. So instead of having to go in and then manually type in some stuff to upload your changes to the server, once you upload your code change, then it would automatically test your code as well as upload it to the servers. And in conclusion, the experience, or my experience this summer has been very enlightening. I've learned so much. I have done the challenge before last year, more so on my own, as in I was working on a project on my own. But this time around, I was working with a group of people, a team, and it was really interesting, especially to learn from everyone, to understand everyone's development style, and to just interact with them. It was very enlightening, it was very interesting, and I enjoyed the last 3 months. So I'm looking at the chat. Thank you so much for that information, Sheldon. Do you use continuous integration? Yes, but not continuous deployment. Right. So we're doing testing. It's done automatically. We wrote unit tests for all the API endpoints. So that is done. But continuous deployment to the servers it's not implemented. So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, you're free to ask now. Oh, all right, we have a question. Do you use Agile? No, actually, we didn't really use a methodology during development.
Thank you for listening. If you are interested in participating, donating, or sponsoring our activities, then please visit our website at palisados.org. This is the Palisados Foundation.